Just days before the biggest FIFA World Cup in history, football's rulebook has been rewritten. Not next season, not next year, right now. And some players still haven't fully realized what it means. Because at World Cup 2026, a single instinctive reaction could end your tournament instantly. One gesture, one moment of emotion, one split-second decision. Straight red card. No warning, no second chance. For decades, footballers have covered their mouths during heated arguments. You've seen it hundreds of times. Players arguing with referees, players confronting opponents, teammates exchanging words they don't want cameras to capture. It became one of football's most recognizable images, almost automatic, almost invisible. Not anymore, because FIFA and IFAB have officially approved one of the most controversial disciplinary changes the modern game has ever seen. A player who covers his mouth during certain confrontational situations can now be shown an immediate red card. And that's only the beginning, because hidden inside the new World Cup rule package are several changes that could completely transform how matches are played. Players walking off the pitch in protest, goalkeepers wasting time, substitutions designed to slow games down, even emotional confrontations that have been part of football culture for generations. Everything is suddenly under the microscope. And here's why fans are divided. Supporters of the changes say football has finally reached a point where stronger action is necessary. Critics say FIFA is trying to regulate emotion out of the sport. They say the beautiful game is becoming a legal document, a sport where players have to think about disciplinary codes before reacting naturally. And if that sounds dramatic, wait until you hear the incident that pushed FIFA toward this decision. Because according to football authorities, one controversial moment involving racist abuse allegations, hidden from television cameras by a player's hand covering his mouth, changed everything. That moment triggered investigations. The investigations triggered pressure, and the pressure triggered a rule that could define the entire 2026 FIFA World Cup, the biggest tournament football has ever seen. 48 teams, 104 matches, billions of viewers, and now, a brand new rule that could send superstars off the pitch for doing something footballers have done for decades. The question is simple. Is FIFA protecting the game, or has it finally gone too far? Let's investigate. To understand why FIFA created this rule, you have to go back to one uncomfortable reality. Modern football has a problem that cameras often can't see. For years, players accused of discriminatory abuse learned something very quickly. Television cameras are everywhere. Microphones are everywhere. Every stadium contains hundreds of recording devices. So, if you want to say something without being caught, you hide your mouth. Football fans have watched it happen for decades. A player turns away, raises his hand, pulls his shirt slightly upward, leans close to an opponent, and suddenly, nobody knows what was said. No camera can prove it. No microphone can confirm it. The incident becomes one player's word against another's, and in many cases, investigations hit a dead end. That is exactly what football authorities claim they are trying to stop. The moment that accelerated the conversation involved Benfica youngster Gianluca Prestiani and Real Madrid superstar Vinicius Jr. According to reports, allegations emerged that discriminatory language had been used during a confrontation while attempts were made to shield the exchange from cameras. The incident exploded across football media, and questions immediately followed. How do you punish something nobody can clearly hear? How do you investigate something nobody can clearly see? And most importantly, how do you protect players if the evidence is constantly being hidden? For FIFA and IFAB, the answer was radical. Don't just punish the words, punish the act of concealing them. That's the logic behind the new rule. And whether fans agree with it or not, you can understand why football authorities believe it's necessary. Because they aren't looking at one incident, they're looking at years of incidents, years of accusations, years of investigations, years of cases where nobody could prove exactly what happened. Now, FIFA is sending a message. If you're involved in a confrontation and deliberately attempt to hide your communication from officials and cameras, you are taking a serious risk, a very serious risk. The problem is that football isn't played inside a courtroom. It's played at full speed, under pressure, with adrenaline, with emotion, with millions watching. And that's where the controversy begins. Because players don't only cover their mouths during abusive incidents, they do it constantly. They do it when discussing tactics. They do it when arguing with teammates. They do it when speaking to referees. They do it when protecting private conversations from television broadcasts. In other words, the same gesture FIFA now associates with misconduct has also been a completely normal part of football culture. That's why players, pundits, and supporters are already debating how this rule will actually work in practice. Will referees be expected to judge intent? Will every covered mouth interaction be investigated? Will stars receive different treatment than lesser-known players? And perhaps the biggest question of all, will referees actually have the courage to use this rule in a World Cup knockout match? Imagine the scenario. World Cup quarterfinal, 85th minute, one-goal game. A superstar forward argues with an opponent. He instinctively covers his mouth. The referee reaches for a red card. Can you imagine the reaction? The headlines? The controversy? The chaos? Because that's the reality FIFA has now created. A reality where one of football's most common habits suddenly carries massive consequences. And if you think that's the only new disciplinary weapon FIFA is introducing, you haven't seen the next rule. Because the governing body has also declared war on one of football's oldest traditions, protest. But before we get to that, if you enjoy football documentaries that go deeper than the headlines, hit subscribe right now. Because while mainstream coverage focuses on results, we're focused on the stories changing the future of football itself. And trust me, what FIFA is about to do next might be even more controversial than the mouth-covering rule. And that's where FIFA's new rulebook stops feeling like a reform package and starts feeling like a warning. Because the mouth-covering rule isn't the only thing changing at World Cup 2026. Not even close. FIFA has also targeted something that has been part of football for generations: player protests. Think about some of the most iconic moments in football history: players surrounding referees, teams arguing controversial decisions, managers exploding on the touchline, captains demanding explanations. Football has always been emotional, messy, passionate, human. FIFA believes some of that has gone too far, and now they're fighting back. Under the new disciplinary framework, players who leave the field to protest officiating decisions can face immediate punishment. If a protest escalates into an organized walk-off, the consequences become even more severe. The message is crystal clear. The match continues. No exceptions, no negotiations, no dramatic exits. For FIFA, this is about protecting the integrity of the competition. For critics, it's about something else entirely: control. Because football's greatest moments aren't always scripted. Sometimes they're emotional, sometimes they're chaotic, sometimes they're uncomfortable. And that's exactly what FIFA seems determined to eliminate. But perhaps the most surprising changes involve something fans complain about every single weekend: time wasting. The dark art that has frustrated football supporters for decades. Goalkeepers lying on the ball, players taking forever at set pieces, substitutions moving at the speed of a funeral procession. Everyone watching knows what's happening. Everyone hates it. Yet it keeps happening. Now FIFA wants to make it impossible. Officials have been given new tools: visible countdown procedures, stricter enforcement, and immediate consequences for delays. For years, players treated time wasting as a tactical weapon. At World Cup 2026, it could become a tactical disaster. And that's why coaches across the tournament are paying very close attention. Because these aren't cosmetic changes. These aren't public relations announcements. These are rules that could directly decide matches. Imagine a goalkeeper forgetting the new timing requirements in the final minutes of a knockout game. Imagine a substitute taking too long to leave the field during extra time. Imagine a frustrated player instinctively reacting the way footballers have reacted for decades, only to discover the rules have changed. Those moments could determine who advances, who goes home, and who lifts the trophy. Which brings us to the bigger question: what kind of football does FIFA actually want? A cleaner game? A fairer game? A more controlled game? Or a game where officials have more power than ever before? Because that's the debate now dividing football fans around the world. Supporters of these changes argue that the sport desperately needed stronger enforcement, that racism, abuse, and constant time wasting have damaged the game for too long, that football cannot keep tolerating behavior that would be unacceptable anywhere else. And honestly, they have a point. But critics have a point too, because football's magic has always come from emotion, from passion, from players reacting in real time. from moments that aren't perfectly controlled. The fear isn't that FIFA is solving problems. The fear is that in trying to solve those problems, they're changing football itself. And now, the biggest test begins. Not next year, not next season. This Thursday, the opening whistle of the largest World Cup in history. 48 nations, 104 matches, billions of viewers, and a brand new rule book that nobody has truly tested under World Cup pressure. Maybe FIFA has protected the future of football. Maybe they've overreached completely. We're about to find out. So tell me in the comments, has FIFA finally taken the right stand against abuse and gamesmanship? Or have they completely lost their minds and turned football into a rule book instead of a sport? And if you think this controversy is wild, click the video on your screen right now to find out why Canada and Mexico are secretly plotting to ruin America's World Cup takeover.